Welcome into the Thunder basketball universe. It has been over a week since the Thunder have last played basketball. They have had a lot of time here in Oklahoma City getting in the practice facility, getting some much needed rest, and now we're gearing up because on deck for the Thunder is the Western Conference Semifinals, the Dallas Mavericks coming into town, and this kicks off the second round of these Western Conference playoffs. A lot to look forward to here in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, if you think that you're ready for the start of the second round, imagine being the Thunder, who has played 4 games in the last 3 weeks. So these guys are ready to rock. They're ready to go up against another opponent, and that opponent, the Dallas Mavericks.
So we've spent a lot of time in the practice facility just getting a chance to talk to these guys over the past 8 days. So we are going to have a little game of You Can Shay That Again, since we've been talking to these guys a lot recently. Nick, what is the quote that you would like to share with us today?
All right, this one goes, there's a number of things you can do both individually and as a team to make sure you're winning those gaps and winning the spaces between the series and games.
That sounds so much like Mark Daigneault.
It is not. It is a player.
It's a player.
Yes, yeah. It does sound like Mark Daigneault.
It does. It sounds like him.
And I think that this is such a great indicator of the players on this team.
Yeah.
That the verbiage, all that stuff just trickles down to the guys, and they're really like all on board here.
You know who this is?
Who?
Aaron Wiggins.
You're exactly right.
That's Aaron Wiggins.
Yep.
Yep. It's all coming back to me now. I remember this. Aaron's so well spoken.
When you're a former second round pick, when you're a do it all hustle scrappy guy, that includes getting the messaging from the coach as well. and Aaron said that something that Mark Daigneault talked about leading into the New Orleans series, again, critical here for this Thunder team to not just take this time off for what it is, the 7 days between the end of one series and start of another, but it's an opportunity also to actually get better and improve. It's something that Mark Daigneault talked about in the midst of the New Orleans series was, we have to get better as the series goes along.
Right.
Well, this Thunder team, they have to get better as the playoffs go along too.
Yeah, it's stacking days.
Yeah.
It's all the same stuff. Whether you're in a series, whether you're waiting on a series to start, those days are critical and you have to utilize them to your best ability. That means trying to get better, whether that's recovering from, bumps and bruises or gearing up and game planning for your opponent ahead. And this Thunder group has had a lot of time here in Oklahoma City to do just that. And these guys are making sure they're trying to win these days.
Yeah. And for some guys like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, these days are extra special because of some circumstances around his life, the birth of his son. So the rest, the time at home with family, all of that is recharging and energizing in different ways. So is the ability to actually work on the floor too. Yeah.
And also congratulations to Shai and to his wife, Haley, their newborn son, Aries. So sweet. We talked to Shai today at practice. We're recording this on May 6th, Monday, May 6th. And we had a chance to talk to Shai at practice. And he had an awesome quote. It was this close to being a You Could Shay That Again quote. But he said, it's surreal. It's a very different kind of love. And, Nick, as a father, I'm sure you could relate to that.
And most definitely. And I asked him a little bit about, what it's been like for him as he's been thinking about, his dad and all that stuff. And he said there really hasn't been much time to think about anything. And mostly Aries only cares about Haley right now, which sounds about right from my experience of these first few weeks. It's all about mama at this point.
Yeah, such a sweet moment, and so happy for Shai and his family and the new addition to the Thunder family as well. All right, here is speaking of Shai, You Can Shay That Again. He said, I can't wait. It's been too long. Home crowd is amazing. It feels different. It gets us ready to go on the road. It's everything. It's a real home court advantage. We love it.
Well, this is the guy that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
It's the namesake of the game, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
It is. This was today at practice, and I was so curious because these guys are going through this for the first time, and Shai's been to playoffs before historically. When he was with the Clippers, he did a round in the playoffs. But that Paycom Center crowd, man, that's one of one. That is unique. That was my first time experiencing it. And for me, it was so cool. So I had to know, after you got a taste of it, are you excited to go back into it? And yes, they are very excited. And Shai was saying it's been too long. It has been 10 days since the Thunder has played inside of Paycom Center during the playoffs. So these guys are amped up to experience that again.
Yeah. What was your expectation coming into your first playoff series ever that you actually got to cover in person?
Yeah.
And how was it maybe different or like similar to what you expected?
I was expecting it to be loud, and
Yeah.
we had played in games in Paycom Center where it was a, kind of a grind out sort of, those buzzer beaters, or that game against Toronto that went into double overtime. Those had sort of like a vibe to them,
There's
amped
tension.
up.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
tension.
Yeah.
Every shot is met with like a roar from the crowd. Those games where you can't quite hear yourself think, we've had moments of that. I anticipated feeling that from the outset to the buzzer. And that's exactly what happened. So like it matched my expectation, but it exceeded it in the sense that nobody wasn't wearing the shirt.
Yeah.
That's what got me. I was expecting, there are going to be a few kids that are too cool for school and don't want to wear their t-shirts. No,
Not here.
Not here.
Yeah.
Not inside of Paycom Center.
Yeah.
Not in Oklahoma City. We're locked in here.
Yeah, I mean, you can get the fits off on IG and Instagram and wherever you need to get them.
Yeah.
Before the game, after the game, but during those 48 minutes, it's a 48-minute game. You got to be locked in on being a Thunder fan.
You know what else is interesting? It's like, I think there's also you don't want to be that person.
No.
Because it was a whiteout. It was a sea of white. And it's like, if you're that one person who's not wearing the shirt, it's very clear that you are not wearing the shirt. So you don't want to stand out. And I know the Thunder's got some awesome things planned in terms of some shirts for games 1 and 2 of the second round.
You're going to want to check out all our at OKC Thunder social media accounts to see exactly what those shirts are going to look like and what yours might look like as well.
That's right. Yep. So keep on the lookout. All right. Since we've been at practice basically every day since we got back from New Orleans, we've got some things that have kind of caught our eye, things we want to keep you up to date on. And mainly the biggest thing is how do these guys stay in it, right? Like with such a long break, what is the cadence? What has the rhythm been like of these guys during practice? When did they start folding in Dallas preparation? Because there's so much time and you don't want to, you don't want to get rusty, but you don't want to over prep. So there's been kind of a balance that the Thunder's trying to strike here.
Yeah. So, you come back from New Orleans and the guys actually got 2 solid days off, which was
much
great.
needed.
So that was Tuesday and Wednesday. Then they hit it hard on Thursday and Friday. Those were like get in rhythm, rhythm and conditioning practices is what Mark Daignault called them. And that's really just to make sure that these guys remember the most important thing is like they are highly tuned athletes. These are guys that have to stay in peak physical shape and condition. And then they took the day off on Saturday, then got back to it Sunday and today, Monday. And those practices were a little bit more like regular season style practices is what we gathered, is more of that rhythm of like, okay, work on ourselves, get some game plan stuff. And then on Tuesday morning, the Thunder will have shoot around.
Right.
That'll be going through kind of final game plan stuff, getting into that good game day rhythm. And then it's game time on Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m.
Yeah, the biggest thing for the Thunder is that they wanted to focus on themselves. And that's what they've done all season long, is make sure that they're focusing on the things that have made them successful up to this point. So during that, first few 4 or 5 days, Coach Daignault wasn't peppering them with potential Clipper stuff and potential Dallas stuff. Like he wasn't just overloading them with information. They didn't start talking about Dallas until basically Sunday and started folding in a few game plan items there. And then like you mentioned, today and then Tuesday shoot around. And that's all they need to really make sure that they're prepared coming into game 1 of this series. But the one thing we do know, the vibe in these practices, these guys, they're approaching everything the exact same. The energy, the competitive level, all of that, and very, very professional. That's the one thing I've noticed going into this practice facility.
Yeah, focused, professional, still, the kind of light air that this team always kind of has around it, but there's still, there's that focused, competitive approach. You always get that from a guy like Lou Dort when we talked to him the other day, just, very focused on the task at hand. One thing that I wanted to point out about what you were saying, Paris, is just the reason that the Thunder was not overloading its players, too early on game plan stuff is the Thunder wants these guys to be critical thinkers, but they don't want them to be overthinkers. Right. And ultimately, what these players need to do on the floor is have instinctual reactions, be able to make split-second decisions, and just be really decisive out there on the floor. And so there is a sweet spot in terms of amount of specific prep towards the opponent that is required, because ultimately 80-90% of what this team needs to be about is itself.
Right.
And then the individual detail stuff, well, that matters, but it can't be dominating their thinking.
I love what Coach Dagnall said about this. He said, it's our job as a coaching staff to be over-prepared and to overthink everything, dot T's or dot I's, cross T's, all of that stuff. But the players, their job is to go out there and be the critical thinkers, be able to read, react, play free. And we, guide them from the sidelines as much as we need to. But this group has shown time and time again, their adaptability is there, regardless of what situation they're thrown into. No doubt Dallas is going to be throwing a lot of different looks at them throughout this series as well. And another thing Coach Dagnall said is, this team has had to show a lot of resilience and respond to a lot of adversity. The Thunder hasn't lost a playoff game yet. And that's still something that could most certainly happen throughout this series. And so just making sure that this group is just staying true to their identity, true to themselves, and recognizing how they handle adversity, how they bounce back, and all of those things is going to be critical in the series.
Yeah, and these are all new experiences for this team, including eventually losing a playoff game, which is bound to happen. And so the ultimate job of this team, the only really standard that this Thunder team has for its players, is compete together.
Yes.
And so that is what the Thunder coaching staff wants to be on the players' minds, not necessarily tons of X's and O's, and of course all of that matters. And these guys are serious professionals.
Yeah.
Lou Dort's got his own little notebook that he's got going on everybody, or notes in his phone, I should say. But at the end of the day, they got to go compete and do it together, and that's where their focus is at.
And these guys are excited to get back after it, not just for the Paycom Center crowd, but really just to compete and be out there on the floor. That's what these guys love to do. So they are amped and juiced and ready to go. We're going to do a quick preview of the Dallas Mavericks. Yep. Obviously, they were the 5th seed coming into this playoffs. They faced off against the Clippers in the first round, won that series in 6 games. But the big headline for Dallas, anytime you go up against a Dallas team, it's that two-headed monster of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving.
And those two guys have now, over the past year plus, learned how to play off of each other more and more. They're obviously both very, very effective running pick and roll, great ball handlers. This team does not turn it over very much, which is something that the Thunder's going to have to reckon with, because that has been an engine of offense for OKC over the course of the season. So can the Thunder still be disruptive against this Mavericks team that hasn't turned it over much? And those two guys, at the point of attack, they put you in binds. It's why they're two of the greatest players in the league. It's why they are triple-double candidates every night in terms of being able to just, of course, score on their own, but play make for others, be physical in their own ways. Kyrie is not a big player, but he is. He really puts it on you physically in a lot of different ways because of the pace, the tempo, and everything that he can play with. So this is going to be a fascinating series. Obviously, the Thunder's got some really high-level defenders in both the starting and second units. Those guys are going to be critical. But the 5-man unit is what's really going to do the job against these players, because what Kyrie and Luka do at such a high level is not just make plays for themselves, but they orient the offense around their skill sets and get other guys involved. And that's where Dallas can hurt you, is when everybody's eating at the same time.
Yeah, let's be very clear. Luka is averaging 33.9 points per game, but he's also averaging 9.8 assists per game as well. He's teetering on a triple-double every single night. So that ability to include teammates, get guys open, facilitate, a very big strength of both Luka and Kyrie as well. It was interesting. We talked to Coach Dagnall today at practice, and he was asked about, how do you brace for, going up against a very physical, big guard.
This was a Shay that again. What are we doing?
I know. I don't know why I didn't choose this one. And they were like, how do you brace for, handling Luka defensively? And he's like, I don't make sure Lou's at the game on time. Like it's kind of all you need. And we're going to ride with these guys. We trust our guys. They've shown what they're capable of all season long. Lou had a fantastic series against the New Orleans Pelicans, and there are multiple point of attack defenders that the Thunder has at their disposal. J-Dub, another really good option as well. Kaysen Wallace off the bench.
Aaron Wiggins.
I mean, the unrelenting stream of point of attack defenders can be exhausting for opponents. And so the Thunder has a lot of guys they can lean on. And of course, like you mentioned, the 5-man unit is really going to be key, more than just the one guy that's guarding Luka or Kyrie.
Yeah, and then on the other end of the floor, the Thunder's got to deal with a defense in Dallas that has improved over the course of the season. They're most likely going to have a big, traditional big, hard rolling big, a rim protecting big on the floor at all times. And so so the Thunder is going to have to navigate that, try to get those cracks at the rim, and make sure that those guys aren't sitting in the paint for 3 seconds or longer on each of these possessions, because as we all know, OKC's offense is really predicated on the drive, the getting downhill, getting all the way to the rim, getting fouled, spraying out for catch and shoot threes. If the Thunder can get that mojo going, get that offensive action going, it can be really, really effective. And we've seen now in the course of the regular season and then in the playoffs, really all of the players that surround Shay and J-Dub, kind of the two primary engines of creators downhill, a lot of these other guys have been able to feast off of that action as well, from Chet to Josh Giddey, who had an amazing series against New Orleans. Lou Dort has knocked down threes left and right. And then off the bench, you of course, you have Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins, who are over 40% three-point shooters on the season. So OKC's ability to keep you guessing is going to be really fascinating to watch.
And has forced teams from the very start of the season to just start throwing the kitchen sink at them just to slow them down. Coach Dagnall brought this up today at practice, where he was like, at the start of the season, we had one of the best offenses in the league. And so in a playoff sort of style, teams were having to adapt to try to slow things down, to try to take away options. And so the Thunder has seen a lot of different looks, a lot of different adjustments and strategies to try to slow down that very offense that you were just talking about. And so it'll be really interesting to see this in real time again, after we saw it in the Pelican series, to see it again in this Dallas series, knowing that Dallas has faced the Thunder already 4 times this season. They already know what they're going up against, and the high-powered, threat-filled offense of the Thunder. So it should be interesting to see those adjustments and what teams are throwing at each other throughout the series.
Yeah, I never thought that I was going to see another box and one in the NBA again, but that's something that was thrown at Shay this year. There's all sorts of other things. The double teams way out to half court, zone defenses, cross-matching with all sorts of different teams, players and whatnot. So all that stuff is going to be coming at the Thunder. And as Mark said, there's nothing that Dallas is going to throw at us, and there's nothing that we're going to throw at Dallas that either Shay or Luka or Kyrie hasn't seen before.
Right.
And so for Shay and for those guys, this is going to come down to execution, right? It's like who can do their job, and not just those guys, but within the team framework at a higher level and stack those possessions.
And also, you can expect another physical series as well. That was something that showed up big time in the Pelican series. Could most certainly be front and center again in this series against the Mavericks. And in talking to Lou and talking to Jay Will, these guys, they're all for the physicality. They are ready for it, and kind of excited about it as well. One little wrinkle just to keep in the back of your head when thinking about the Dallas Mavericks, they're going to be without Maxi Kleber. He has a shoulder injury that'll be reevaluated in about 3 weeks. So that kind of impacts a little bit of their rotation for the Mavericks and how they kind of formulate their offense and their strategies as well. He played about 22 minutes a night, so something to keep in mind. And that could be something that changes this landscape a little bit for the Mavericks.
Yeah, and on the other side of that, they get Tim Hardaway Jr. back. He had an ankle injury, and he'd missed some time in that series with the Clippers, so he's back into the fold. So you kind of get one shooter out, one shooter back in for Dallas. Obviously, those guys play different positions, different sizes, but something to factor in. And, this is the war of attrition that is the playoffs, and it's something that is not static now. I mean, we're going to continue to see after game 1, everything that we talk about here today could be totally irrelevant because that's what happens when you get into the playoffs. Circumstances just unfold and unravel right in front of your eyes.
Every game takes on a life of its own. It's so fascinating to watch. And I have no doubt in my mind that this series will be really, really fun to watch as well.
And the other, just fascinating element of these playoff series is that sometimes, a game can play out a certain way. And both teams line it up and play the exact same way the next game, and it turns out totally differently, right? And so it's something just to think about and watch for as these two teams who have been among the best in the Western Conference all season long. I mean, every team that's left in the playoffs on either side is a killer at this point. And just recognizing that, the sky is going to be falling on every team at some point in this series. After game 1 or after game 2 or after game 3, the sky is going to be falling on them. And there's going to be an opportunity 2 days after that to go lace them up again and make the sky fall on the other team. And you just never know how that's all going to shake out.
So you might want to tune in just to make sure you keep up to date with everything that's happening, because these are going to be some really, really great games. The first two, they take place right here inside of Paycom Center. Game 1, Tuesday, May 7th. That's going to be an 8 p.m. Central Time start. That game is going to be on TNT. But before that game starts, make sure you get to Scissortail Park, because Thunder Up in the Park, that has been so fun. A lot of awesome action happening out there. There's like a DJ, there's food, there's games. They're also giving away free tickets.
Yeah.
So there's a reason to show up to Thunder Up in the Park before the game.
Yeah, and we had such great turnouts there during the first round. I mean, it was a party out there. And it was this great like procession then over to the arena that was so cool to watch. And obviously we were stuck inside the arena doing all of our pregame things, but just seeing all the imagery on our at OKC Thunder social channels was really special. And to just get that feeling, we're playing basketball in the spring, and it's been a little bit since we've really gotten that full experience here in May. Yeah. And so really exciting to be able to get these people out here and rocking again.
Well, before we let you go, let's make sure you are up to date on the calendar for these first 4 games of this Western Conference Semifinals. As I mentioned, Game 1, Tuesday, May 7th, here inside of Paycom Center. Game 2 is going to be Thursday. So this is every other day for the Thunder, which is a really nice cadence to have here. Game 2, Thursday at 8:30. That game's going to be on ESPN. Game 3, Saturday at Dallas. That is a 2:30 p.m. tip-off, so that's a little bit of an interesting start time there. Game 4, at Dallas on Monday, 8:30 p.m. on TNT.
Yeah, so get ready to stay up late with us. 3 out of those 4 games at 8:30, and then that one matinee in the afternoon. And that was kind of the cadence of the Thunder's games against the Pelicans. So just should be fascinating to watch these two teams that really were among the class of the Western Conference. Line it up and lace them up and go to battle.
So be sure to stay locked on OKCThunder.com. If you haven't downloaded the Thunder app, do that. That is a great source of information for all the Thunder Up in the Park information. They've been doing some t-shirt drops around town too, so stay up to date on all of that as well. And of course, at OKC Thunder on all social channels. But that wraps us up here today. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much to our producer, Matt Bishop. And until next time, Thunder Up, and catch you later.